Las Vegas isn't collapsing quietly. It's getting outperformed in places it never bothered to look. While the Strip charged $50 for parking and hid $45 resort fees behind asterisks, other states were stacking revenue the old-fashioned way, by treating gamblers like customers instead of revenue targets. Florida casinos pulled over $62 million slot revenue in a single month across their major properties. In Oklahoma, tribal gaming regions cleared more than $7.4 billion last year, with border casinos routinely matching the foot traffic of mid-tier Vegas resorts. Even Pennsylvania cracked $5.5 billion in annual gaming revenue, a number unthinkable 2 decades ago. Vegas didn't lose these players, it pushed them away. If you want more deep dive breakdowns like this on Geologic, hit like and subscribe. And tell me in the comments, is Vegas still worth the trip, or have regional casinos replaced the magic? The Strip didn't get beaten by better marketing or brighter lights. It got beaten by value, geography, and math. And the data is no longer subtle. Gamblers didn't quit, they migrated. Vegas built American gambling from the ground up. It made casinos glamorous. It made betting mainstream. It turned a desert into a billion-dollar fantasy machine powered by access, affordability, and the thrill of possibility. Then, it forgot all three. When middle-class travelers walked the Strip 20 years ago, they felt rich for a weekend. Cheap rooms, cheap buffets, forgiving table minimums, loose slots, generous comps. People came once, then came back with friends, then came back with family. Vegas didn't have to chase loyalty, it earned it. But the modern Strip isn't built for the people who filled its hotel towers. It's built for quarterly earnings and premium pricing. The room that once cost $79 now costs $180 before the resort fee. The buffet that fed a family for $40 is now $70 per person. The free parking that locals relied on became a profit center. Every corner of the experience was remolded into an upcharge. And while Vegas transformed into a luxury-priced version of itself, the rest of America quietly built casinos for normal people. Ohio crossed $2.4 billion in gaming revenue. New York topped $4.2 billion. California's tribal casinos surged past $12 billion, offering mega resorts that matched the Strip in scale and outclass it in value. People didn't stop loving casinos. They stopped loving casinos that treated them like ATM machines. The shift wasn't sudden. It happened customer by customer. The business traveler who found conventions cheaper elsewhere. The family who realized a 2-hour drive beat a $900 flight. The retired couple who discovered their local casino offered better comps. The younger gambler who didn't see the point of flying to Nevada when entertainment lived on their phone. Vegas didn't get ambushed. It ignored the warning signs in plain sight. The Strip still has the skyline, the shows, the spectacle. But spectacle isn't enough when the cost of participation keeps rising. And gamblers, the lifeblood of the ecosystem, now have alternatives in every direction. If you've ever switched from Vegas to a regional casino, tell me why in the comments. Your reason is part of the bigger story. Vegas didn't fall behind because regional casinos tried to imitate it. Vegas fell behind because regional casinos remembered the formula Vegas abandoned. And that's where the real unraveling begins. Vegas didn't implode because gamblers stopped coming. It imploded because the corporations running the Strip stopped thinking like casino operators and started thinking like debt managers. When MGM and Caesars each carried more than $11 to $13 billion in liabilities, survival wasn't about improving the guest experience. It was about squeezing revenue out of every visitor who still showed up. That's how the modern Strip was built. On pressure, on refinancing, on quarterly reports demanding higher yields no matter what the customer felt. Parking, once free for decades, turned into a $25 to $40 daily charge. Resort fees climbed from $10 to $45, then crept even higher once taxes kicked in. Table minimums that used to be $5 became $25 on slow nights. The average Vegas visitor now spends more than $530 per day, almost double what they spent 10 years ago. The corporate playbook was simple: extract, don't entertain. But here's what the corporations missed. The average gambler isn't a whale. They don't shrug off $300 in add-on fees. They notice it. And when they notice it enough times, they stop coming. Comment below if you've avoided Vegas because of fees. You're not alone. Millions have. Vegas didn't raise prices to elevate the experience. It raised them because the financial structure demanded it. And when the guest experience became secondary to the balance sheet, the erosion wasn't a question of if, only when. Look deeper and the arithmetic becomes unavoidable. Labor costs rose across Nevada, insurance premiums climbed, utility expenses hit new highs, compliance costs tightened. Nothing about running a strip resort became cheaper. At the same time, gaming revenue stagnated. The percentage of strip income coming from actual gambling fell from more than 55% in the 90s to barely 34% today. Non-gaming revenue, dining, retail, entertainment, had to carry the load. But those revenue streams are fragile. They depend on volume, energy, foot traffic, and impulse spending. When visitors started tightening their wallets, the entire model cracked. So, the Strip doubled down on the only lever it thought it still controlled: price. Room rates rose more than 45% from 2019 to 2024. Buffets shifted from affordable to premium dining. A beer that once cost $6 became $14 to $18. Low-limit tables, the backbone of casual gambling, disappeared. The Strip priced itself like a luxury market while giving visitors the same rooms, the same games, and the same infrastructure it had a decade earlier. Meanwhile, regional casinos kept expectations realistic. Ohio posted record years. Maryland crossed $2 billion in gaming revenue. Michigan topped $3.3 billion. These markets didn't just grow, they stabilized. Vegas needed visitors to spend more and stay longer. Regional casinos needed visitors to come often and leave satisfied. If you believe loyalty grows from value instead of price, tell me in the comments. That principle is exactly why Vegas fell behind. This wasn't a collapse of tourism, it was a collapse of trust. Even if Vegas had stayed affordable, it still faced a cultural shift it refused to understand. The average American gambler no longer behaves the way they did 20 years ago, because America itself no longer behaves the same way. Younger generations gamble less. Gen Z spends 25 to 30% less on gaming than millennials did at the same age. They prefer experiences, social environments, and digital platforms. A blackjack table doesn't excite them the way it once did. A $200 dinner matters more than a $200 slot pull. The pandemic accelerated a transformation Vegas wasn't prepared for. Americans now choose micro-vacations, short, frequent, convenient trips, instead of big annual destinations. A 2-hour drive beats a 4-day weekend. Familiarity beats spectacle. Value beats nostalgia. Regional casinos saw the shift and adapted instantly. Free parking, straightforward pricing, generous comps, manageable crowds. Casinos in New York, Pennsylvania, Missouri, and Florida focused on the customers who gamble regularly, local residents. Vegas chose the opposite direction. It kept building attractions meant for long travel, big budgets, and multi-day stays, the exact type of trips Americans now take far less often. Even international travel patterns changed. Outbound tourism shrank in many countries while domestic spending rose. The people Vegas relied on shifted their habits, and Vegas convinced itself they would eventually return to the old routine. Tell me below if your travel habits changed after 2020. Your answer is the evidence Vegas ignored. America evolved, Vegas didn't. If you want to understand why Vegas is losing ground, forget the Strip for a moment and look at a map. The geography alone explains half the story. Most Americans live within a 2-hour radius of at least one casino. Pennsylvania has more than a dozen major casinos. Ohio has 4 full-scale resorts. Florida's east and west coasts are lined with slots and card rooms. California has more than 65 operational tribal casinos, many of them the size of mid-tier Vegas properties. A Vegas trip demands airfare, hotel rates, resort fees, ride shares, and 3 days of time. A regional trip costs a tank of gas and a weeknight. That's how regional casinos stole Vegas's crown without even trying. Drive time convenience wasn't a perk, it was a revolution. When a gambler can finish work at 6 and be at a slot machine by 7, Vegas stops being a habit and becomes a special occasion trip. And the spending difference is massive. A typical regional gambler might spend $120 to $180 per visit. A Vegas visitor spends 4 to 6 times more just to arrive. That cost difference doesn't make Vegas feel premium. It makes Vegas feel impractical. If you've ever skipped Vegas because a closer casino felt good enough, drop a comment. Millions are making the same calculation. Vegas used to own everyday gamblers. Now everyday gamblers own the power to choose, and they're choosing convenience over spectacle. Florida wasn't supposed to become a gaming powerhouse, but while Vegas debated its future, Florida acted. In 2024, the state's non-tribal casinos pulled more than $57 million in slot revenue in a single month, and that number doesn't include the Seminole Hard Rock system, which alone competes with mid-tier strip resorts. The real warning sign came when Florida's year-over-year slot revenue rose nearly 4% while Vegas posted declines. Florida kept the experience simple: no resort fees, no airfare, no sticker shock, just gambling, the product Vegas forgot to prioritize. Then there's Oklahoma, the quiet juggernaut. The state's tribal casinos generated more than $7.4 billion last year, rivaling the entire Las Vegas Strip. WinStar, positioned on the Texas border, isn't just large. It's engineered for volume. Thousands of electronic games, constant expansions, and a customer pool of nearly 8 million people from the Dallas-Fort Worth metro just a short drive away. Oklahoma didn't need a brand, it needed Texas, and the tribes executed the strategy with precision. Build massive properties exactly where demand is greatest. Today, the Chickasaw, Choctaw, and Cherokee nations run some of the most profitable casino networks in North America. Meanwhile, Vegas executives dismissed regional growth for years, convinced nobody would choose a tribal casino over the Strip. But millions did, and millions still do. If you think local casinos now outperform Vegas on value, say so in the comments. That shift is exactly what Vegas underestimated. If there's one factor Vegas wishes gamblers wouldn't discuss, it's the loyalty collapse. Nothing eroded the Strip's foundation faster. For decades, Vegas hooked guests with comps that felt generous. Free rooms, free buffets, discounted shows, and point multipliers that seemed attainable. Earning mid-tier status felt achievable for anyone willing to gamble a little. Then, the math changed. Tier credits that once required $3,000 in annual theoretical loss now require double or triple that amount. Free rooms disappeared during peak periods. Food credits shrank. Even longtime loyal gamblers found themselves pushed into lower tiers while spending the same amounts as before. Regional casinos moved the opposite direction. They increased point multipliers. They issued monthly free play offers. They comped meals to low and mid-level players. They treated loyalty as a relationship, not a transaction. Compare a $500 gambling trip at your local casino with a $500 gambling trip in Vegas. The difference is embarrassing. Local players walk away with perks. Vegas visitors walk away with surcharges. And this matters because loyalty isn't a marketing add-on. It's retention. When regular gamblers, the backbone of the industry, feel undervalued, they don't get angry. They get bored. And boredom is fatal to casinos. Drop a comment if you've noticed your Vegas comps aren't worth the trip anymore. You're not imagining it. The Strip re-engineered its system to chase whales, and in doing so, pushed away everyone else. Slots aren't decoration, they are the engine. Across America, slot machines generate 70 to 80% of total casino profits, and the gap between Vegas and regional casinos is no longer subtle. Strip slots often run 88 to 90% RTP, some of the tightest in the country. Many regional markets, from Pennsylvania to Missouri, offer 91 to 94%. It sounds like a small difference. It isn't. Over hours of play, that gap determines whether a gambler feels entertained or drained. Vegas tightened its machines because its business model depends on fast loss cycles to offset slowing visitor growth. Regional casinos loosened theirs because they need players to return weekly, not once a year. The emotional experience is completely different. A gambler in Ohio might play for 2 hours on $100. A gambler in Vegas might last 40 minutes. One experience feels like leisure. The other feels like attrition. If you've ever felt like Vegas slots eat money faster, tell me in the comments. You're not imagining it. Younger gamblers made the problem even worse for Vegas. They don't have nostalgia for classic slots. They want engagement, not repetition. They want skill-based elements, digital betting, social competition. Vegas staked its future on a product younger generations barely care about, and then tightened that product until older generations felt alienated too. Vegas didn't lose the slot war because it lacked machines. It lost because it misunderstood the psychology of play. Sports betting should have been Vegas's ace. For decades, Nevada held the monopoly. If you wanted to bet legally on March Madness or the Super Bowl, you went to Vegas. Sportsbooks were cultural landmarks, the beating heart of the Strip. Then a single Supreme Court ruling reshaped everything. Today, more than 38 states have legal sports betting. Smartphones replaced pilgrimage trips. Billions in wagers that once flowed through Vegas now stay inside local markets. Last year alone, states outside Nevada handled more than $100 billion in sports wagers. The audience Vegas relied on, young men with disposable income, no longer needs the Strip for anything. Regional casinos moved quickly. They launched sports books tied to mobile apps, loyalty points, and dining offers. They turned sports betting into a daily habit. Vegas tried to compete with bigger screens and new lounge designs, but the exclusivity was gone. The one thing Vegas once owned became just another product. If you place most of your bets on your phone instead of flying to Nevada, say so in the comments. Your behavior is exactly why Vegas lost this edge. This wasn't a shift in taste. It was a shift in infrastructure. Vegas relied on being the only legal option. Once that monopoly disappeared, an entire category of visitors disappeared with it. Vegas didn't only rely on tourists, it relied on business travelers, the people who filled 150,000 hotel rooms Monday through Thursday. Conventions were the stabilizer. Trade shows kept restaurants full in slow seasons. Corporate travel made Vegas the only city that could sell out on a Tuesday. But remote work rewrote the rules. Companies cut travel budgets. Digital events replaced physical ones. Even major shows like CES and SEMA saw volatile attendance as industries reevaluated the return on travel. Convention traffic fell sharply after 2020 and never fully returned. And even when events did come back, spending changed. Companies sent fewer employees. Some skipped entirely. Meetings that once required a Vegas trip now happen on Zoom. Regional casinos never took this hit. They were never built on corporate travel. Their model depends on locals, day trippers, and repeat gamblers, the exact groups that grew stronger after the pandemic. Vegas, for the first time in decades, struggled to fill weekday rooms. Restaurants reduced hours, shows cut schedules, dynamic pricing collapsed midweek. When the business traveler shrank, the Strip finally saw how fragile its foundation really was. If you've ever attended a Vegas convention and noticed it felt quieter, tell me in the comments. The shift is real, and it's reshaping the city one empty ballroom at a time. Vegas built its future on whales, the top 1% of gamblers who spend more in a weekend than most visitors spend in a year. For decades, that strategy worked. Vegas had no serious global competition. If a billionaire wanted a private baccarat suite, they flew to Nevada. Then the world changed. Macau became a superpower, pulling in more than $22 billion in gaming revenue last year, nearly triple pre-pandemic Vegas levels. Singapore's Marina Bay Sands turned into a luxury icon. Manila's entertainment city built ultra-private suites and high-limit rooms engineered for VIPs. Even South Korea and Cyprus developed resorts designed specifically for high-stakes players. International whales didn't stop spending. They stopped spending in Vegas. Asian VIPs stayed closer to home. Middle Eastern high rollers preferred privacy over spectacle. European players gravitated toward destinations with fewer restrictions and higher betting limits. Vegas believed it could anchor its future to elite gamblers. But those gamblers found options that were more exclusive, more discreet, and far better tailored to their lifestyles. If you've ever felt Vegas is less glamorous than it used to be, comment below. That perception is exactly why whales drifted away, and why Vegas hasn't recovered. For decades, California was Vegas's secret engine. Los Angeles alone sent millions of visitors every year, filling rooms, buffets, and blackjack tables. The weekend pilgrimage from Southern California kept Vegas alive even in downturns. Then California built its own empire. Today, the state's tribal casinos generate more than $12.7 billion annually, making it the largest tribal gaming market in the country. Pachanga, Yaamava, Grayton, Morongo, and Thunder Valley aren't local casinos. They are full-scale resort destinations with massive gaming floors, luxury towers, high-limit rooms, and entertainment that rivals the Strip. And they're close. For many Californians, these resorts are 60 to 90 minutes away. No flights, no resort fees, no multi-day commitment. Add rising gas prices, volatile airfare, and inflation, and the decision becomes obvious. Vegas didn't lose California's loyalty. It surrendered it by assuming Californians would always drive or fly in. But when California offered the same experience without the financial drag, the pipeline dried up. If you're from California and now prefer your own tribal casinos, comment your experience. You're part of the shift reshaping the entire West Coast gambling economy. For all the challenges hitting Vegas now, the biggest shockwave hasn't arrived yet. It's coming from Texas. Texas has flirted with casino legalization for years, but pressure is rising. Billions in lost tax revenue, lobbying from major casino operators, and shifting political momentum have pushed the state closer than ever to approving full-scale resorts. And if it happens, the impact is immediate. Dallas-Fort Worth has more than 8 million residents. Houston has nearly 7 million. Austin and San Antonio add millions more. These metro areas have enough population and wealth to sustain multiple mega resorts each. If Texas legalizes casinos, Vegas instantly loses one of its most reliable visitor bases. Oklahoma's border advantage collapses. Louisiana's riverboats take a major hit. A brand new casino belt forms across Texas, absorbing billions of dollars in gambling revenue that used to flow into Nevada. Vegas can compete with Florida. It can compete with California, but it cannot compete with Texas building Vegas-style resorts inside Texas. The moment legalization passes, the map changes forever. If you're from Texas, comment whether you'd still fly to Vegas if you had world-class casinos at home. Your answer predicts the future of American gambling. Vegas is not dying. Vegas is refusing to choose. It wants to be a luxury city and a mass-market destination at the same time. It wants billionaires and budget travelers to coexist. It wants to raise prices while keeping its nostalgic appeal. These contradictions define the Strip today. Fixing the problem isn't complicated. It just requires sacrifice. Vegas could bring back affordability, drop resort fees, loosen slots, lower table minimums, restore strong loyalty benefits, build trust instead of extracting value, or it could fully embrace a luxury identity. Smaller crowds, high-end guests, premium pricing without pretending to be accessible. Or it could split into two ecosystems, the Strip for premium travelers and downtown plus the locals' casinos for value-focused gamblers. But none of these paths work without humility. And humility is rare in an industry built on image, confidence, and quarterly performance. When a CFO sees a revenue line sag, the reflex is to raise prices, not lower them. That's why the cycle continues, and why the gap between Vegas and regional casinos keeps widening. If you run Vegas, the right choice is obvious. But if you run a publicly traded casino corporation, the right choice isn't the profitable one. It's the painful one. And painful decisions rarely get made until crisis forces them. Tell me in the comments which path you think Vegas should take: affordability, premium identity, or a split model. Vegas didn't get outplayed. It got out-evolved. While it was raising fees, cutting comps, tightening slots, and chasing whales, the rest of America was paying attention to what gamblers actually wanted: convenience, fairness, honesty, and value. Regional casinos weren't trying to become Vegas. They were trying to serve their communities. And in doing so, they built an alternative ecosystem strong enough to challenge the neon capital of the desert. Vegas taught America to love gambling. Then America learned it could gamble anywhere. That's the irony. The empire didn't collapse from outside attack. It collapsed because it forgot the people who built it. The regular visitors who filled the rooms, powered the shows, tipped the dealers, and brought the city to life. Vegas still has the lights, the skyline, the fantasy. But fantasy isn't enough when the math no longer works. Spectacle loses its shine when the price doubles and the value halves. For more deep dive breakdowns like this on Geologic, hit like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments whether Vegas is overdue for reinvention or already too late. The house doesn't always win, not when it forgets who the house was built for.